Paolo drives in, spin, fakes, fires a jump. Nothing but the bottom of the net. And the Magic have a win on a magical Monday night in Central Florida.
Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to Courtside Countdown. I'm your host, Kendra Douglas, and I'm so excited to be joining you today. So a couple Magic reminders. Tonight, the Magic will be going up against the Atlanta Hawks tonight. The first time that they're seeing them in 50-something plus games, so it's interesting to see a division opponent tonight so late in the season. Second, please interact with us. We want you guys to subscribe to all the channels. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube. So make sure that you guys lock in with me today for the next couple 20, 30 minutes as we get you prepared for today's game. I'm already seeing some comments. I love it. I love it. I'm going to go through some. Courtside Countdown with the league's best duo. As you know, Dan Savage will be joining me in just a few. But thank you. We love that you guys are loving Courtside Countdown because we really want to make this a pregame show that you guys can enjoy. But also don't forget, the pregame show with Dante and the crew will be at 6:30 on FanDuel Sports Network, your home for the Orlando Magic. So you can lock into that right after you watch us. So let's get into this tonight. I want to see if I'm going to get to any more comments before we do. We got some good things, just people saying they can't wait for the game and to play the song. That's right. We want to see the Magic play the song, get their second win here before they go into the All-Star break. But let's go ahead and talk about that last win on Saturday against the Spurs. What a night it was for this team. And everyone can just take another deep breath. The Magic returned home for the first of 3 games, and head coach Jamal Mosley gave all the credit to Magic fans for the win inside the arena. Just the excitement, the loudness that the Magic had. It was great. You felt the energy, especially late in the game. The Magic, they really came into this pretty late into this because for the beginning of the game, the Spurs, they were really neck and neck with this team. They were up 2 after the first quarter, shooting over 56% from the field. Anthony Black, though, what a game for him. Really got things going for the Magic, but they were outscored by 5 in the second. But still, the Magic were able to come away with this big win. And you have to talk about Franz Wagner and his performance. 17 points in the second half to finish with 33 points, 12 rebounds on the night. And you can just really see the growth. You can see right there that the Magic won this one, 112 to 111. 45 rebounds for the Magic. And then the way that they were able to shoot for this team, and as you see on the bottom right there, just Franz's stats from that night, he had an electric performance. You can just see the growth in his playmaking ability so far this season. It's just been amazing to see his leadership, the way he's been able to grow. But the guys were super pumped about this win. Let's hear from them after Saturday's win.
Franz, these games coming off a West Coast trip are never easy, but what did you like about your group's collective ability to stick with it and make big plays down the stretch tonight?
Yeah, I thought we showed a lot of character. Like you said, it's never easy after the trip that we had too. So, but at this point in the season, there's really no time to waste and to wait. So, I thought we did a good job in the second half of really stepping up our defense, especially in the fourth. And I thought everybody that played had great energy all game, and I think we need more of that. That gives us a chance every night.
West Coast trip went how it did for the team and for myself. But like I said earlier, I feel like I've been shooting the ball the same. So I'm just trying to trust in it. At the end of the day, it's gonna go in or it's not. But my teammates did a good job of finding me. I was shooting a lot of wide open shots today. So shout out to Franz, shout out to P. And just the whole team for overcoming a 13-point deficit like Franz talked about.
It just shows you the game's never over. NBA, 12-minute quarters. It's a long game. You can storm back, in a minute's time. So just sticking with it, reminding everybody in the huddles, it's a, long game.
So many cool things that you guys are saying, especially about AB, which I think is so important to recognize too, that he had a great performance, 20 points on the night, and then he was able to hold De'Aaron Fox to just, 9 points. So I saw the comment that someone had about just they loved how important his aggressiveness and attacks like he did against the Spurs. Yes, AB had a phenomenal game. Let's get to some more comments. Franz should show Trey today what a real all-star is. Okay, like this energy. As you guys might know, that Trae Young, he will be going to the All-Star game, and he's going to go in for Giannis, so he will be going to San Fran for All-Stars. I saw someone talk about how they were there. That's right. JP said, what a great game, was in person and had a great time. So overall, the Magic, they needed this win. As you guys all know, they needed this one, especially since they're going into the All-Star break. You want to finish strong in your home in front of the fans. But we got to talk about Franz Wagner and his performance as well on Saturday night, too. Again, like I was mentioning, just way that he is able to be able to execute his game plan, be able to, his IQ on the court as well, and what he's been able to accomplish. He has had multiple 30-plus point games since his return, 4 of them due to that oblique injury. He had 33 on the night on Saturday, 17 points in the second half, and Franz is one of 7 players averaging 25-plus points, 5-plus rebounds, 5-plus assists, and at least 1 steal per game. And Coach Mosley called him a winner, the ultimate winner after that win against the Spurs. And I think you're really seeing how much he's growing this year. And it was interesting because coming out of that oblique injury, of course, you're wondering, how is he going to perform? How is he going to help this team? Even though the Magic had a really kind of rocky West Coast trip, Franz still performed very well on the West Coast, especially in the game against Sacramento. And then, of course, also in San Fran as well. So he's been able to really continue that trajectory up. And I think that says a lot, that speaks a lot. It shows you the depth that this Magic team has and how they're able to have multiple playmakers beyond this court too as well. But as the Magic look to tonight's game, before we talk about the Atlanta Hawks, let's get to the Eastern Conference and look at those standings so far this season. So as you can see, the Magic, they still remain 8th, but this is, again, always fluid because you can see that the Hawks are pretty close with the Magic. The Heat, they play Boston tonight and then back-to-back against the Thunder in Dallas. So that'll be something to note when you continue to look at these standings for the East Coast and just what is going on with this team. And overall, though, the big point is seeing that the Magic have not played the Atlanta Hawks at all until so late in the season. And we'll welcome in Dan Savage to kind of talk a little bit about that. It's kind of interesting that this team is starting to see Atlanta for the first time now.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those weird oddities with the NBA's schedule. Now that they are trying to do a lot more of those home and homes,
Yeah.
those 2 games in the same city, to cut down on travel, to cut down on the back-to-backs, as that's been a point of emphasis. So I think we'll start to see that added with the in-season tournament, that we get more of these little bit oddities than we would have in years past.
Yeah, so something to also talk about with this Atlanta team is they're also a new look as well. They've gotten some guys too. Can you talk a little bit about just the trade and you bring Trey, you bring George, you have those guys on this team, what they add for this Atlanta Hawks squad a little bit?
Well, I think the one thing you got to know with the Hawks is it's all going to start with Trae Young.
Yes.
He's leading the NBA in assists, and all the attention is going to be brought to him. When it comes to other guys around him, he's the head of the snake.
Yeah.
If you could cut him down and take him away from distributing, get the ball out of his hands, it becomes a lot easier as a team to slow the rest of the guys down.
It sure does. And we're going to talk about Trae Young in a minute, but let's get to the Hawks' last 5 games and just how they've been able to perform so far this season. So what we've normally seen, if you take a look at it tonight and what they're going through, so they have won 3 out of their last 5, including the big win against the Milwaukee Bucks. And then also they lost against the San Antonio Spurs, but that is a team that the Magic were able to beat. They had a loss against the Indiana Pacers as well. But the big one also that stands out to me is the win against the Pistons. This Pistons team that is also finding their groove and finding their voice. They've been a real threat. So how do you make up what this Atlanta Hawks team has been able to do so far these last 5?
Yeah, you look at their last 5 games. They've won 3 of their last 4. The one loss in that scenario came against the Spurs, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Just a 1-point loss, narrow defeat, where Victor Wembanyama hit a free throw with 2.4 seconds left to give the Spurs a victory over the Hawks. So they've been in every game down the stretch. And when you look at the last 5 games, as you had mentioned, Trae Young scored at least 32
Yep.
points in 4 of those and at least 9 assists in 4 of those. And if you have to really think about the psyche of when the timing lined up, well, guess who was initially snubbed off the All-Star team? Trae Young,
Trae Young.
who was trying to make a point in case the spot opened up.
And
Trae Young. And guess who got that spot?
Trae Young.
So now if you're the Magic, and you know you have Franz Wagner,
Yes.
you have Paolo Banchero on your team, both players who believe that they're all-star players,
Without a doubt.
I think you flipped the script on him tonight and proved that one of those 2 guys should have
Should've
been going
on-
there.
I completely agree with that, especially the way that Franz has been able to play so far. I was mentioning a second ago that even though the Magic didn't have such a strong West Coast showing, Franz Wagner did.
Yes.
Franz had a great showing. So let's get to some of these comments before we get to talking about Trae Young. Dan, the people love you.
Oh,
The
I love that. I love the people.
We love the people.
Whoever those people are, I love them.
We have Will Dawson. Dan Savage is the man. We got the Dan fan club is real.
I love Will.
Dan the man Savage. Evening, Dan. Dan Savage knows basketball.
I appreciate
We
that. I
love
at least
the
like
comments.
to pretend to.
Dan Savage, A+ talent. I think that this is the Dan Savage show, low-key.
No.
I like it. I love the energy.
I'm just a mere, that secondary character that occasionally comes on and
Yeah.
pops in the door on the sitcom, makes a few remarks, and then heads on
and
out.
then heads on out.
That's me.
I want you guys to continue to go into the chat. Let us know, what were some of your favorite moments from the Spurs win? What are you looking forward to tonight? How can this Magic team slow down Trae Young and the Hawks and this new look team too? Because Trae Man can also shoot. Let's not forget about that. So let's tell us a little bit about what you are hoping to see from this from this Magic team tonight. While we wait for you guys to give us your comments, let's talk about Trae Young and what he's been able to have this season. You just mentioned how he was giving that energy of, you should have made me an all-star, and he for sure has. So the running the show for the Hawks, of course, got the big win against the Wizards the other night. 10th game of the season with 30-plus points, 10-plus assists, 35 and 14 on the night for Young in that one. Since the start of February, Young is averaging more than 31 points per game and more than 11 assists. So he is continuously showing to be a threat for any of his opponents, and he's really helping out this team. And I think it's so valuable of what you said of, because he was mad that he didn't make it. Even their head coach was mad that he didn't make it. And I think he's showing now, because he could have just rolled over and said whatever, especially with the trade deadline and everything. But I think he's showing he should have been an all-star.
Yeah, and now if you're the Magic, you're hoping
Yeah.
that, hey, you got an all-star berth. Take the foot off the gas a little bit
Yeah.
and start looking forward to All-Star Weekend. But these are the times of the season where what you're made of really shows.
Yeah.
And I think playing at home with the energy of the home crowd could really help you, because I could tell you in the locker room right now, there are a number of guys in that Hawks locker room perhaps that are already thinking about what their plans are for All-Star Weekend,
Yes.
what they're going to do. Trae Young got the All-Star berth, planning for that. So you hope their minds are a little distracted. You got to be the more determined, diligent team with your sights set on getting the wins in the final 2 games before the All-Star break, and hopefully playing in front of the Kia Center crowd could help you. Because when you have a guy like Trae Young on the other team, you not only have to defend in the half court, you have to pick him up all the way, because that guy is one of the NBA league's leaders in 30-plus foot three-pointers made. So as soon as he crosses half court, he's a threat.
Yes, he sure is. Let's get to some of your comments, because you guys are giving us so much energy right now. Kendra plus Dan is RP5 plus Franz. Dan.
Boom. Power of friendship.
I can shed a tear on that one. Okay, Franz saving the ball and calling the timeout. Oh, that's what I
Who
mentioned.
made that comment?
It was
They know ball.
They do. Duval T87.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by his IQ and the growth that he has. Because that was maturity right there. That was like real deal, like you've been in, like, just to see the growth of his playmaking.
When you do something like that, split second, that's natural IQ. You don't
Yes.
have time to think. I've repped these type of things so much. I'm so invested in ball. I know what to do in this scenario. And that's Franz. He is a machine in some ways,
Yes.
and a basketball machine at that. Perfectly processed that. His Intel processor or whatever you want to call it, is at an
Whatever.
all-time high.
It was crazy. I remember when that happened, I was like, no way he just called that. And he sure did. So Franz Wagner has continuously shown just his development this season and this year of the maturity and the way that he's able to be a leader for this team. It stands out, and it's so cool to see the difference from last year to this year.
And the way that rule works is if you're going out of bounds, the officials won't necessarily grant you a timeout if they determine you're falling out of bounds. So he had to start calling that as his foot was still planted
Yeah.
and leaving. And the amount of time he had to do that was so minuscule. The fact that he was able to pull that off and process that in such short order was amazing.
Amazing. All right, so tonight's opponent, of course, the Atlanta Hawks. Let's look at the team comparison for the season for the two teams this year. Overall, when you look a little bit, as you can see, that the Magic there, 41-26 all-time versus Atlanta. Here's what's interesting, though, is that, like, the Magic were only able to get one out of the last four in the meeting. So you know what you're going to get from this team as well. I believe that was here when they got the win.
Yeah, they've had some wonky games.
Yeah.
DeJounte Murray was a part of those.
Yep.
He's no longer with the Hawks, but he had a few game winners. Was a thorn in the Magic side, so good to see him shipped out of there and the Magic having not to deal with him. And hopefully he's going quick in his injury recovery. Thoughts out to him. But, boy, good to see him out of Atlanta, and hopefully the Magic can reap the rewards of him no longer being part of that club.
You talk about how talk about DeJounte. I mean, he was legit like the game-winning shot for the last couple of Magic games. Mexico City, he had one in Atlanta. Like, he was literally, like you said, a thorn in the Magic's side. So, now he's not there. They have some new guys. They've got rid of some guys too. So this will be actually interesting to see them. And I'm curious of what it would have been like to be able to play them before the trade deadline. That would have been interesting, but that's not our case.
No. And, I mean, working in the Magic's favor is that Jalen Johnson's out tonight with his shoulder injury. He was playing phenomenal ball, was a big factor down low in the paint. His injury has changed him, but they still have a few guys who've stepped up in that area and are doing extremely well for them.
They sure are. So, Dan, you